Hi students, in this video we shall study about biological classification, which is the second chapter. First of all, let us understand the meaning of the word classification. See, classification refers to making groups or categories. So classification, the meaning of classification is making groups or categories. And biological refers to life forms. Life forms. So now it is the making of groups of or categories of a life forms, which means a biological classification or classification of the living forms or life forms. They are called as biological classification. So a lot of attempts were made for the biological classification in the olden days also, and presently also they are working a lot on the biological classification. Now, after understanding the meaning of the classification, let us understand the two basic system of classification, that is Aristotle's system of classification and Linnaeus system of classification. In this two classification, we can see that the whole of the organisms, whatever organisms or living organisms which are there on the planet Earth, they were divided only in two kingdoms, either kingdom Plantae or kingdom Animalia, that is kingdom plants and animals. So even if it was insect, that was kept in animals, even if it was a algae or a big tree, that was kept under kingdom Plantae, and some other life forms like Chlamydomonas, volvox, etc., all were kept under kingdom Plantae. And you can see here that this was the basic kind of classification which was given by Aristotle and Linnaeus system of classification. And further we have to also see that on what criteria they had made their classification. So for example, let us take Aristotle's system of classification. He further classified plants into three different groups called herbs, shrubs and trees. And animals he had classified with red blood and without red blood. Now if you see here, he had classified this based on the height of the plant. That is, herbs, they are very short and they have very weak stem, and shrubs, when compared to herbs, they have very sturdy stem and they are, even their lifespan is more than that of the herbs. And trees, they are really very large, they have a very good branch, very hard branch, and based on these characteristics he had classified these plants. And animals he had classified based on the presence of what kind of color of blood they had. See, for example, some animals they have red blood, but some animals they did not have the red blood, and based on this basic changes or this difference, he had classified the animals into two different groups. Now here there was a problem, because some organisms where characters were mixing, that is characters were overlapping. They had the characters of plants also and they had the characters of animals also. Now where to place them, that was the challenge for them. For example, let us take a fungi, or it's a mushroom family. So this mushroom family, if you see under a microscope, they have a cell wall. So when they have a cell wall, they had to be kept in the plant kingdom. But the mushroom also shows heterotrophic nutrition. Nutrition wise, it was showing the character of an animal. Now it was a problem for the scientists to place this mushroom either in the plant group, that is kingdom Plantae, or in the animal group. Now where to place them? For this, R.H. Whittaker system of classification is being used, because R.H. Whittaker system of classification, which was proposed in 1969, he had given place for all these kind of organisms by making the three more extra kingdoms. Now see here, we have 5 kingdoms here: kingdom Monera, kingdom Protista, kingdom Fungi, kingdom Plantae and kingdom Animalia. So kingdom Fungi is also called as kingdom Mycota, Plantae is also called as Metaphyta, and Animalia is also called as kingdom Metazoa. So this is a widely accepted system of classification. Why? Because he has proposed 5 kingdom classification for the organism. That is, all the living organism now can be categorized to the 5 different classification. That is, whatever organism if we get, we can study that organism and we can put that organism in any of this 5 kingdom of classification, which makes the classification very easy. Now he had also made certain criteria for this classification. Now let us study the important criteria for the classification. So these are the criteria for classification, that is based on the cell structure, based on the thallus organization, based on the mode of nutrition, based on reproduction and phylogenetic relationship. Let me explain one by one. Now first is cell structure. Now some organisms, they may be having a cell wall, but some organisms, they don't have a cell wall. Okay, that is one criteria of cell structure. Then there are some organisms which have where the nuclear membrane is surrounded throughout the nucleus. That is in case of eukaryotes, what we call that nucleus is surrounded by the nuclear membrane, and in some organisms there is no nuclear membrane surrounding the nucleus. So that also accounts for the cell structure. Next is the thallus organization, whether the organism is unicellular or whether it is multicellular, that is one thing. Second thing, whether the, if we consider a plant, whether the root and shoot system is, thallus is acting like a root and shoot system, or whether it has a separate root and shoot system. Then mode of nutrition, whether it is an autotrophic or whether it is an heterotrophic organism. Then reproduction also, we have different types like asexual and sexual reproduction, that is reproduction without gametes and reproduction with gametes. Next is phylogenetic relationship. So this is really very important, because there is, we can establish a connection between one organism to another organism, how the organism is developing. Now what is the mode of evolution, how the species are evolved, that also we can come to the conclusion with this kind of classification, that is called RH Whittaker system of classification. So in our syllabus we have 3 different system of classification, that is Aristotle system of classification, Linnaeus system of classification, and RH Whittaker system of classification, which was proposed in 1969. And the most acceptable system of classification is RH Whittaker system of classification. And for your examination purpose, you should also be knowing the criteria, based on what criteria he has classified the organisms. Now the next important question is why classification, or why classification is needed. So for this, answer is classification basically it requires for the study of organism. Now whenever we find a new organism or whichever organism we need to study, first of all we are going to see its general characteristics, what characteristics it has, what kind of special adaptability it has. So all those things can be known by the classification. Next is for preparing commercial products, so this can be used in industries. For example, we have dairy industries, we have pharmaceutical industry, we have medical industry. In these industries we can use this classification very efficiently, because only certain organism, that is certain species, can produce certain kind of chemicals. If you are preparing the plant based medicine, then only certain plants, only certain species can produce those medicines. In that scenario, it becomes a must and should, it becomes a rule that we have to study the classification. So this is where the classification is actually used. Yes children, other videos also will be uploaded on this biological classification. Please do watch them. Thank you.